Hello, I'm Jim Adamski with CDL, and today we're going to talk about the use, care, and maintenance of maple syrup hydrometers. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the hydrometer itself. Whenever I get a new hydrometer, what I like to do is I like to take a magic marker with my hydrometer in its container, and I like to mark my hydrometer line matching one of my red lines inside of my tube. And the reason that we're going to mark this is over years of use. And if you're a little rough with your hydrometer and you drop it into your hydrometer cup a few too many times, what can actually happen is our paper can slide in our glass tube. So if we put it back into its original packaging, we can see that the black line will align with our bottom red line on our hydrometer, and this will be a good reference point over the years as we use this hydrometer to make sure that our paper didn't slide. So when we look at a maple syrup hydrometer, we're going to look at this particular hydrometer, and it's what they call a dual scale hydrometer. On one side of the hydrometer, we're going to have the Beaumet scale. On the opposite side, we are going to have the brick scale. So everything that we're going to talk about today is going to be in the brick scale. So care and maintenance with a maple syrup hydrometer, we want to make sure that we are warming this hydrometer or keeping it warm prior to putting it into hot maple syrup. If we take an ice cold maple hydrometer and put her into hot syrup, we have a tendency to crack them. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that this hydrometer is kept warm prior to using it in hot syrup. So we have a couple of different lines basically on the hydrometer itself. This bottom line will be our cold test line, which is going to be at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The top line will be our hot test line at 211 degrees Fahrenheit. So if we look at this, we're going to have these two lines as our reference when we're testing our sap. So for the particular example that we're going to use today, we are going to be using, like I said, the brick scale. So the minimum bricks for maple syrup is going to be 66 bricks. Anything less than 66 bricks, our maple syrup has the opportunity to ferment, even if it is hot packed into a container. The top end reading that we want to look at is really 68 bricks. Once we get over 68 bricks in the container, we can have a tendency of developing sugar crystals on the bottom of our container because our sugar is so thick in our mixture that it cannot stay in suspension. So 68 would be our top end bricks and 66 would be our minimum bricks. So when we're using a maple hydrometer, what we want to do is we want to insert the hydrometer into the cup relatively slow. We don't want to drop the hydrometer into the container and let it bounce back up. And the reason that we don't want to do that is we can coat this stem with maple syrup. When we coat the stem with maple syrup, we add additional weight to the hydrometer, and it can give us a false reading. So warm hydrometer into the hot syrup, basically we want to slide it down into it slowly until it starts to float. And then what we want to do is we want to take our reading. So if we look at this particular hydrometer cup with the hot syrup in, we are reading right at our hot test line. And you can see how our liquid line or our liquid lines up with our line. So that's what we should look at on a hot test for our maple syrup. If you have any other questions, please visit our website.